After all, that's the society we live in. Get him before he gets you. Get there before they get them. Dog eat dog society. Everyone for himself and God for all of us. That's the society we live in. But thankfully, God does not take our worst moments and judge us by our worst moments. God actually looks at the state of our heart, the heart posture. Hey y'all, so I'm currently reading 1 Samuel 24, and this is the story of David. He's hiding away in the wilderness of En-Gedi in one of the caves. Saul has heard about this, so Saul has come in hot pursuit of him. David and his men are hiding in caves. Now Saul, needing to relieve himself, he goes into one of the caves to do so. We pick up the story in verse 3. So he came to the sheepfold. This is Saul. He came to the sheepfold by the road where there was a cave, and Saul went in to attend to his needs. David and his men were staying in the recesses of the cave. First of all, just the imagery that this painted. I stopped to wonder what David was thinking. He hadn't done anyone anything wrong. All that had happened to him was that the Lord had picked him to be Israel's next king. He had been anointed, but he hadn't been jostling to take over the throne from Saul. Quite the contrary. He was looking to serve Saul very well. He was looking to be of service to the people. And yet the reward of that seems to be him running, hiding in caves. It made me so sad. It reminds me of Jesus saying the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. Even foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest. And this kind of brought to mind that verse, because here is David in service of the Lord, called to sing, to play the harp to the king who now has a tormenting spirit that is disturbing his peace. And David is doing that to the best of his ability, and next thing he knows, his life is in danger. For no reason at all, Saul is seeking to seek him. Well, I shouldn't say for no reason at all, definitely for jealousy, for insecurities, for trying to secure his family legacy through Jonathan, because I remember him telling Jonathan, you have betrayed yourself by pledging, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, pledging allegiance to David instead of securing your own future for yourself and your progeny. So Saul was coming from that place because he still had self-interest. He still had plans for himself, but David really was not focused on that. David was just trying to get through the day serving the king to the best of his ability. But what was happening now was that he was out hiding in the caves, his life in danger, and he had nowhere to go. I felt so sad because he kept moving from wilderness to wilderness. That is the calling of the Lord. It often results in you walking in arid places. It often results in you, if not directly being hunted, then at least being overwhelmed by the circumstances in your life. God forms his people in the wilderness. We are formed when we go into this place of solitude, this place where there are no distractions, this place where we have no choice but to fully learn to depend on the Lord. And that's what was happening with David here. He was learning to battle. He was learning to not rely on alliances as much as to rely on God. Because earlier, even when we see he has gone to hide in the land of the Philistine, which is Gath. When he fled to Gath, the prophet, Prophet Gad came and told him, you need to leave this place. This is in chapter 21, verse 3. Now the prophet Gad said to David, do not stay in the stronghold, depart to the land of Judah. So David departed and went into the forest of Hereth. That was one of the wildernesses in Judah. Hey, come in. Trying to. Yeah.
I wanted to tell you I'm going to Rini.
Let me pause it.
I'm going to Pendo.
That was my sister, the one I'm always quoting, the one I'm always talking about. Her name is Terry. Okay, so we see that God sent him back, and I was meditating on why, and I realized God wanted him to be in his place of calling, even though that's where he was besieged, that's where his life was in danger, but God still required that he be in his place of calling. And so he was going from, I think the first one was the wilderness of Zilph. This is in verse 23, chapter 14. After that, we can see he goes to the wilderness of Maon, And then now we can see he's in the wilderness of En Gedi, all of this within the southern part of the land of Judah. And he stayed there. Now, this is what I wanted to highlight with this story, that Saul comes in, David and his men are hiding. His men tell him, this is a gift from God. This is your chance. This is your opportunity. God has delivered your enemy right into your hands. Basically, let's take his life. And David creeps forward and cuts a corner of Saul's robe. Here's the thing, this troubled him. He didn't kill him, he didn't hurt him, he didn't even touch him. He simply cut a corner of his robe. And this is how the Bible puts it. And David arose and secretly cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Now, it happened afterwards that David's heart troubled him because he had cut Saul's robe. And he said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch out my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. This man is seeking his life, but he's still able to see it's not even about me, it's about God. And as far as I'm concerned, this man is still sitting on the throne. That is by God's doing. I will not interrupt that process. I will not interject. I will not shorten it. I will simply wait. So David restrained his servants with these words and did not allow them to rise against Saul. And Saul got up from the cave and went on his way. I thought that was so poignant, because often we wonder, why was David said to be the man after God's heart? David was a man after God's heart because of moments like this. You see opportunity happen. You see even justification happen. Like if he had gone ahead to kill Saul, that is such a human reaction. I don't think anyone would have judged him, even Saul included. Everyone would have just felt it was justified because this man is seeking to kill you. After all, that's the society we live in. Get him before he gets you. Get there before they get them. Dog eat dog society. Everyone for himself and God for all of us. That's the society we live into. So looking at it humanistically, it's easy to say that would have been justified. But David was able to come outside of himself, his fear, his anger, his frustration, look to God and say, it's not my hand to take a life. That's up to God. And I think that's why. All right.
So what happened?
Pardon the interruption. That was my sister again. We're supposed to go somewhere. There's a function she's planning, and so we're going out to look at the venue. And I love being here because of things like that. I love family. I so love what the Lord is doing in my life, with her, through her, watching her, observing her. Again, I learn visually. And so I really needed to be here to get a lot of the things, the lessons that I need to learn from someone that has been walking with the Lord for far much longer than I have. She's pastored a church. She runs a non-profit, all for the glory of God. So it's quite impactful to be able to observe that. Anyway, back to the story, because I was right at the end, just saying David was truly a man after God's heart. We all know what he did as we get along on his journey. And we also know that that's probably what he's most famously known for. But thankfully, God does not take our worst moments and judge us by our worst moments. God actually looks at the state of our heart, the heart posture, the conditioning of our heart. And when we read incidences like this, we get to understand how David was designated as being a man after God's heart, because he did not take matters into his own hands as often as he had the opportunity to do that. He was very astute in his belief in God. He was very astute when it came to waiting upon God to do right by him, for God to determine times and seasons in his life. And that is a good example to follow. That's a good example to follow. So today I'm going to keep it brief. I'm going to leave it there because my sister is waiting. We're supposed to go out. And I'll probably shoot another video tomorrow before I get back out there to go to work in a bit. Well, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.